How is everyone doing today? Thank you so much for stopping by. I am so excited to chat with you, and thank you so much for coming to this, for hanging out, for listening to this story. And I hope that throughout this story, you find some sort of inspiration, some sort of motivation to live a better life and to get over the things that are holding you back from living the life that you really want. So I want to share a story with you. It's kind of a deep, dark secret that I haven't really shared with anyone. And it involves my story with my past in corporate America. And it's kind of hard to talk about because we all build up these egos, right? We want to be perceived as great. We want to be perceived as someone that is just really awesome at whatever they do. So when I started in corporate America, and this is the story that I was posting about. When I started in corporate America a while ago, right away when I first started out, I instantly knew that it wasn't for me. I instantly had just this gut feeling that it wasn't right for me. Every time I would come in the office, I'd be like, why the hell am I here again, right? Have you ever had that feeling of dealing with the bureaucracy of your job and you're just wondering why you have to put up with it, or how this is an inefficient use of time, or there's all this red tape to go through and all these different things, and a negative company culture. And I just knew that I was meant for something different. I was meant for something more. At the time, I thought it was just the company that I was with. So I figured I'd test it out. And I figured I'd test it out by going and trying out a new career, right? I went from one fashion retailer in Columbus, Ohio to a different one. And when I was at that new fashion retailer, something happened, right? It was a better company. I was definitely more engaged with that company. It was a group of people that were loving and caring. My boss was great. And something happened when I was there. I slowly started to realize that even though the company culture was better, even though there were things going on that I enjoyed, the people that I was with were great, I could still feel the lack of fulfillment. I could still feel myself walking in every single day and just not wanting to be there. For some reason, I wanted some sort of freedom. I wanted some sort of just opportunity to fully express myself and who I was. And so that's not the secret. Don't worry, the secret's coming up. And so what I always told people for the longest time was that I left corporate America a while after starting my online fitness business. That's what I told people. And as I went through, I felt these emotions for 2-3 months, and it really started to stress me out. It really started to eat away at me. And I would talk to Janice, we were just boyfriend-girlfriend at the time, about leaving my job and what it would be like. And she's like, I don't think that's a good idea, right? I talked to my parents about it. I don't think that's a good idea. I talked to other people about it. I don't think that's a good idea, right? They would say things like, but you have health insurance, right? You have all these benefits. Most businesses fail when they go out on their own. You're not earning enough income yet in your other business to take that full time, right? Because I was working on my online coaching business with fitness on the side at the same time, and I wasn't earning nearly as much as I was earning in corporate America. And so what I did was, and this is what I haven't ever told anyone, what I did was I went up to my boss one day, and I said to her, I go, Steph, I really got to talk to you. She was a great boss, incredible, super motivating, super driven, just a great person. And I went up to her, and I was just honest with her. I said to her, I have zero passion behind this work. I don't love what I do. I love, you and your management style. You're great. The company is great. I love all this, and this. This is just not something I can see myself doing the rest of my life, and I don't want to be part of it. Right? I don't feel like this should be me. Now, I'm willing to stick around and, work for, however long it takes to find my replacement. I wasn't quitting my job, but I was telling her that I wasn't passionate about the work. And that same day, and I'm someone that prides myself on doing really well in job interviews, doing really well in all this stuff. That same day, I was sent down to HR. And this is probably an hour after I told my boss what was going on. And I was sent down to HR. And they told me that I need to pack up my things and leave that day. I was actually fired from corporate America. So I told people for 5 years that I earned enough money in my side gig to quit my corporate job. But it was a little bullshit. What actually happened was I was honest with my boss and I was fired. I was thrown into entrepreneurship. It was a sink or swim moment. And the reason I share that story with you is because before that happened, before I went, and this is where I'm getting to the point of this whole video, before I went to my boss and talked about it, everyone was telling me that trying this thing by myself and going out on my own was a bad idea. You have health insurance now. You have great payment or paycheck now. You have all these amazing things. So the reason I say that is because from being honest with my boss, I was thrown into a world of entrepreneurship. And at that time, I remember having a phone call with Janice. I called her up the day I was fired. And I called her up and we had this phone conversation and she's like, I don't know whether to be proud of you or mad at you. I don't know whether to be excited for you or pissed at you, right? Because it was terrifying, but it was also freeing, right? And now it's 5 years later, and it was the best decision I ever made because even though it took a long time to get up on my feet, right? I lived with this big ego of wanting to prove to people that I could be a successful business owner, so I made it seem like I was super successful. I wasn't, right? And it took me a long time to get up on my feet, and the truth is, ever since that day, it was in August of 2013. Ever since that day, I have been passionate every single day for 5 years. I've been excited to wake up every single day for 5 years. And now, the reason I bring that up is imagine that feeling for a second. Just take a second and imagine the feeling of waking up passionate about what you do every day, waking up excited about what you do every day, waking up wanting to go to your place of work, waking up wanting to add value to the world in some way with whatever it is. It does not have to be entrepreneurship. It can be any job in the world. Just think about that for a second and really feel it. What would that feel like for you if you were to wake up and do what you knew you were really meant to do with this world, right? Think about that for a second. Do you ever have this feeling like you know you're meant to do something else, something bigger? But the second that idea comes up and crosses your mind, you freeze. Or maybe it's something where you've had this idea of starting to take action. Like you've actually drawn out a plan and you've started to take action on that plan, but then sooner or later you don't follow through, right? You don't follow through. There is a reason you don't follow through. And I'm going to share with you what took me so long, literally about 2 years, to have that honest conversation with my boss and get to that point where, with the secret I told you a couple minutes ago, but there's a reason why you start to take action and then you freeze, or every time it crosses your mind, you don't do anything about it. And this is the thing, and I'm not going to explain it to you in a way that you've heard before. The thing that stops all of you is fear, and you know that. You've heard that. You've heard every cliche in the book when it comes to fear. But if you actually understand fear, and I'm going to explain it to you in a second, the fear that's holding you back, you'll know how to use it, and you'll see it's not even nearly as big of a deal as you thought it was. So let's go ahead and explain fear. In my Program Appreciation Academy, I talk in way more detail than this, but we're going to cover the top side here. So think about what you're afraid of, right? Your mind, and I learned this the hard way through trials and years of figuring this out. Your mind does not want you to be happy. That might be something to note. Your mind does not want you to be happy. Have you ever noticed that the majority of your thoughts focus on why things aren't working? Or the majority of your thoughts focus on how things are too risky? Or the majority of your thoughts are focused on stress, perfection, overwhelm, anxiety? The reason for that is because you are not wired to be happy. You are wired to protect yourself. At any moment, any given time, any second of any day, your mind is focused on what can it do to protect yourself unless you rewire it for what you want instead of what you don't want. And so I'm going to go through fear in just a second. Think about fear. Stress is just another code word for fear. Overwhelm literally just means that you haven't picked a priority. That's all it means. You have a million things a billion miles long, but you haven't picked the most important one. That's overwhelm, right? Overwhelm is completely avoidable. Perfection is literally just insecurity disguised. That's all perfection is. Perfection is impossible. But really, all of these three things and all the other forms of fear, they're all forms of fear, right? So think about this. Our brain is thousands of years old. And back then, you weren't worried about the little things you're worried about now. You were worried about things like, what am I going to do for food today? How am I going to protect my family? You were worried about the saber-toothed tiger that was hiding in the woods that was going to eat your baby, right? Those were your fears. And they were primal, they were real, they were instinctual. You were meant to protect. You were meant to find a way to survive, right? And now, it's thousands of years later, you don't have those same challenges anymore. You don't have to worry about that roof over your head. You don't have to worry about your baby being eaten by a tiger. You don't have to worry about the freezing cold. You have a skin or clothes on your back, right? You don't have to worry about those things. But since our brains haven't evolved very much, we attribute the same amount of fear of pain from back then with a saber-toothed tiger eating our baby to leaving our job or sending out that scary message on social media or putting yourself out there for the world to see in a live video, right? We attribute the same amount of fear as we did something primal for something that's just materialistic or not very big. Because think about this. What happens if your live video only gets 0 viewers, right? What happens if you put yourself out there for your business or you quit that job? What happens? Are you going to die? No, you're going to be totally fine, right? Fear is nothing more than the anticipation of pain. That's what fear is. Like, think about this. What is the worst case scenario with all of this? What's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario of you really going forward in life. The worst case scenario of you going all out. The worst case scenario of you making a job switch. The worst case scenario of you leaving that job that doesn't fulfill you to do something you truly want. The worst case scenario is that you will be totally fine. That's it. And I'm not saying quit and stop taking care of your family. I completely respect the sacrifices that are made to provide. I watched my dad do it for years, where he would go to a job and just work his ass off to provide for us. I completely respect that. But what I'm saying is be smart, make an exit strategy, and go for it with everything you've got. Find a way, right? Wanting your dreams more might help a little bit, sure, right? But that we think that if we can just find the motivation to do it. No, here's the thing. A lightning bolt of motivation is never going to come kick you in the ass and say, go do it. That's never going to happen. A lot of us want to find more reasons to do it. And yes, that helps. But we do more, just as you've experienced, by not leaving that job. We do more for avoidance of pain than we do for gaining pleasure. Think about it. Would you do more? Comment in the chat box here. Would you do more to protect 20 grand from getting stolen, or do more to earn 20 grand? Really think about it. What would you do more? What would you work harder for? To protect the 20 grand that you have from getting stolen, or from earning $20,000 more, right? You do more to protect the 20 grand from getting stolen, right? It's all about pain versus pleasure. So if you want to leave that mediocre job, if you want to get out of that situation, again, this is not a dig on corporate. This is saying whatever your dreams are, if you want to get to that point, you need to learn how to use fear instead of fear using you, right? Instead of fear using you, you learn to use fear. And that comes down to pain versus pleasure. As human beings, everything you do is driven by your need to either avoid pain or gain pleasure, right? That's everything in your life can be boiled down to this. Think about procrastination with studying for a test. Why don't you study for a test? Because you perceive taking action on studying for a test would be more painful than doing nothing, so you experience less pain by doing nothing. That is procrastination. Procrastination is nothing more than a form of fear. That's all it is, right? So we need to learn how to use this. We need to learn how to use pain instead of having pain use you, right? You need to learn how to associate enough pain with staying at that job versus taking action on it, right? Because think about this. If you're wired for fear, you're focusing on all the things that you don't want. You're focusing on what could go wrong. You're focusing on why things will be bad. You're focusing on how you're not going to have enough money. You're focusing on how your kids are going to starve to death. But really, you're going to be fine, like we talked about, right? You're not focusing on what happens if I stay here. Does that cross your mind? Right? So do that right now. Picture it. Like literally picture it. If you're watching this video, close your eyes and picture it. This is going to be a hard question to answer. What will it feel like emotionally 5 years from now if you're still waking up having the same bad day? It's a tough question, right? What will it feel like emotionally 5 years from now if you're still waking up having the exact same bad day? How do you feel? You feel like it's kind of worthless, like you're wasting your life? Do you feel like you could be more but you're not, right? Because the cycle tends to repeat itself, right? You still find yourself going to that job even though you want out. You still find yourself avoiding change. It's all fear-based. And you learn today that fear is nothing more than the anticipation of pain. You know that since you understand that your fears are primal based on protecting yourself, and you know that you're going to be fine either way, then you can use that realization to motivate yourself now. If pain is what motivates you, right? The $20,000 example, if pain is what motivates you, then create more pain linked to staying in your job than pain of leaving it, right? If all you've been focused on is the pain of leaving your job, what could happen? The anticipation of pain, that's fear. What if you linked pain to what happens if you stay there? What if you make a laundry list of all the things that would happen if you stay there? How are you hurting your family by you not being passionate every single day? Are you being a worse mother because you're so emotionally drained when you get home? Are you actually not living up to your financial potential? Even though you might be earning a good income now, could you be earning more? You're not earning more because you're staying in that job. You're not adding value to the world in the way that you know you could. You're depressed, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, right? You self-sabotage. That's what staying in this job has caused you to do. And like I said, I'm not saying just, quit and just go live your dream if you have this family right now that you're trying to provide for, but I'm saying make an exit strategy. Associate more pain with staying with what you don't want to do than going after your dreams. And finally, the final step with all this, and I'm gonna send this out in an email. I'll show you how to get on my email list after this. But finally, like the last step of all this to make all of this so much easier is to get grateful. And actually use this as a success tool. Gratitude is a success tool. It is not some froofy tree hugger thing. It is actually a success tool. I just did a blog post last week about how that is. So go see that one. You can subscribe to my blog on Bizjack.com. But the reason I bring that up is because it is impossible to feel pain and to feel fear and to feel anxiety and to feel overwhelm and to feel depression if you are grateful. Try it. Try feeling deeply grateful and depressed at the same time. It is impossible. Try feeling fearful of leaving your job and grateful at the same time. It is impossible. Try procrastinating and feeling grateful at the same time. It doesn't happen. You find motivation because you connect with this thing instead of this thing. Drop from your head to your heart every once in a while, because when you're in your head, you're dead. When you're in here, you can do anything, right? When you're in here, you know the right answer to everything that's going on. When you're in here, you know that job's not meant for you. You know what you're meant to do with the world, with your world. You know that you're meant to provide something different. If you just have this gut feeling inside you that says, I am meant for more than mediocrity, I am meant for more than what I'm doing now, I'm meant for more than average, I'm meant for more than status quo, I'm meant to do something big, but you can't get yourself to do it, drop from here to here. Understand where fear comes from. Use pain instead of having pain use you. And then go after it. Take massive friggin' action on it. And guess what? You're gonna screw up. You're gonna come up short. Like I said, when I was forced out of my job, that secret that I told you at the beginning of this, when that happened 5 years ago, I didn't have it all figured out right away. I screwed up, right? I screwed up left and right. It took me probably 2 years before I could actually get back on my feet, right? And then now things are way different. But back then, that's where I was at, right? That's what I struggled with. And there's still challenges that I face to this day, right? You have to figure out all the different things. If you're starting your own business, you have to figure out marketing, you have to figure out advertising, you have to figure out emails and SEO and all this bullshit, right? But if you start a new job, you have to think about the first 6 months on your job. The first 6 months on your job, it's a learning process, right? Same thing with starting a business. It's all going to be a learning process. You're not going to have the answer right away, but here's the thing, you don't need the answer. If you have the why, the how will reveal itself. Just literally picture that. Like, if you know what you want, you understand that it's more painful to stay in the same spot than to take action, right? You know what you want, you know where you're focused. You don't need to know how. You just need to know why. And if you have enough reasons to get out of that mediocre situation that you're settling for, if you have enough reasons, the how is going to reveal itself. You take action on something, it's going to lead you to something else. I just did a post today about this, right? If the action that I took out of my corporate job into online fitness coaching led me to this, led me to the creation of Appreciation Academy, my program, led me to public speaking. But it didn't start there. It started with screw-ups and figuring it out as I go, right? So my challenge for you is to use all of this. Understand that it's not going to be easy. Understand that it's going to terrify you, but it's also going to feel freeing. Understand that when you wake up with passion every single day, you make amazing things come into your life. Amazing things. Understand that fear is what stops you. And it's nothing more than the anticipation of pain. And use that pain instead of having that pain use you. Think about the consequences of doing nothing. And remember that question that I asked you. What will it feel like emotionally 5 years from now if you don't take action? Will you still wake up having that same bad day that you've been having for the last 5 years? And if the answer is yes, get the hell out of there. Do something about it. Make a change, because you're not meant for more. You're not meant for mediocrity. You're meant for more than mediocrity. You're meant to feel fully alive every single day. And when you do that, when you live by all these things, instead of doing what most people do, which is shrink their dreams down to the size of their current life, you build your life to the size of your dreams, and you reverse the trend of everyone in society. You see where everyone's going, you sprint the opposite way. That's what most people do. Think about this. The beliefs that you want to have in your life about your abilities, the best way to form new beliefs is to role model people that have what you want. Most of the beliefs that people have are formed by people that have what they don't want, right? Who are the people giving you advice? Are they the 2% of people that are really successful and happy every single day? Or are they the 98% of people that sell for a life that they don't want? That might be a tough question to hear. Like, really think about that for a second. Who are you taking your advice from? Are your beliefs driven by people that don't have what they want? And if the answer is yes, it's time to start looking for people that do have what you want and start changing your beliefs accordingly. And then when you do that, like I said, instead of shrinking your dreams down to the size of your current life, you build your life to the size of your dreams, and you do what most people don't. That is what happens when you decide, once and for all, I'm done with mediocrity, I'm done with average, I am done with status quo. And every single person watching this video, you have this ability to do that. You just have to use fear instead of having fear use you. So if you found this valuable today, guys, check out my Program Appreciation Academy. I'm telling you, we just scratched the surface right here. Just barely scratched the surface. This is so top level. We show you how to get in deep with all this stuff and so much more. Your life will change. If that interests you, head to appreciationacademy.com for details. Or if you want to see more free content, head to bradbizjack.com, subscribe to the blog, the videos, the podcast, all that stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in today in this episode. I'm really excited to share this with you. I'll keep coming each week with live videos. Have an amazing rest of your day, and just go out there and live a kick-ass life. You have one shot. You have one freaking shot. That's it. And if you sit there waking up every single day feeling the exact same way you felt for the last 5 years, all you're going to feel 5 years from now is regret. And that's not what you're meant to feel. You're meant to feel alive. So go out there, kick ass, break those chains of mediocrity. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.